Hello and welcome, I'm Tarek Basley and this is Downstream, the week's top stories from the world of science and technology from Al Jazeera. This week, a multi-billion-dollar plan to power India with solar energy. Taste technology, are we ready for virtual flavours? The 3D printing technology used to fix a hole in the heart. And can the high cost of high tech be justified in poor classrooms? But first, we start this week in the US, where President Barack Obama has called for new laws to combat cybercrime. Many people are reading this as an opening of the way for more state surveillance and more personal data becoming available to government agencies and corporations. But the solution, they say, could be much simpler. Get basic online security right.
It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13.
The morning after President Obama's State of the Union address, and a readathon of George Orwell's 1984 begins at the main public library in Washington, D.C. 66 readers will read 10-minute portions of the novel for 11 hours. A series of events has been organized, inspired by the revelations of whistleblower Edward Snowden on the extent of the U.S.'s mass surveillance operations.
In the summer of 2013, we noticed that the sales of 1984 had gone up something like sevenfold after the Snowden revelations.
Among other events, a workshop on how to use the internet anonymously and evade U.S. security agency surveillance. And that surveillance may increase even further as President Obama urges Congress to act against hacking.
No foreign nation, no hacker should be able to shut down our networks, steal our trade secrets, or invade the privacy of American families, especially our kids. So we're making sure our government integrates intelligence to combat cyber threats, just as we have done to combat terrorism.
But integration means even more of our personal data will be freely traded between government agencies and private corporations. Cybersecurity experts and civil liberties groups say it would be far more effective to concentrate on basic security instead of ramping up mass surveillance even further, teaching users about the dangers of downloading malicious software, or ensuring a minimum standard of corporate cybersecurity, particularly for companies that store data about us. But instead of cracking down on companies like Sony, which have been shown to have minimal password protection, the administration says it wants to go on the attack by instituting harsh penalties for those breaking the rules. Experts say this is misguided.
The truth is, the core cybersecurity problem is that you need companies to harden their network, follow best practices, train their own employees not to respond to phishing emails, as Sony learned. There's no evidence at all that the problem of cybersecurity is about insufficient penalties.
But introducing legislation on minimum corporate standards would mean going up against corporate lobbyists. Civil liberties groups argue that the legislation that has been proposed makes it easier for prosecutors to go after people simply for signing up for Facebook under a false name, or for sharing their passwords for commercial websites like those that show streaming television, while hackers continue to operate unhindered in the shadows of cyberspace.
Well, President Obama was also in the news this week on a visit to India. Here, he gave his backing to an ambitious plan by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to invest heavily in solar power. Modi wants to build solar panels and lots of them, a 7-year project priced at over $160 billion. At the moment, though, India relies on coal for most of its power. So the big question is, how's it going to go about this transformation?
Every time Anil Patel turns on a light, he saves money. He spent nearly $1,500 setting up this micro solar unit, but he says it's been worth it.
If you invest in this, you save $400 every year. That means you recover investment in 4 to 5 years. After that, it is all profit.
Patel saw the long-term benefits and was willing to make the initial investment, but not everyone is. Electricity is still relatively cheap, with nearly 2/3 of India's power needs being met by readily available coal.
To 3 areas of energy.
But advocates for solar power are convinced that the current preference for coal-generated power will change.
See, initially there are some technologies which is having higher cost, right? They may have higher footprints, but over a period of time, as technology matures, so it reduces in consumption of land as well as cost.
The hope in several Indian states is for fields of solar panels like this to become a more common sight. The state of Gujarat already produces about 900 megawatts. The government's aim is for solar energy to contribute about 8% of India's total electricity production by 2022. Solar power generation is set to increase across India as governments and the private sector invest to bring it into the mainstream. But there are challenges in developing this technology, including figuring out its long-term effects. Traditionally, large-scale solar plants require a lot of land, and some critics worry that they'll encroach on agricultural and ecologically sensitive lands. But that's disputed.
Power plants makes use of otherwise barren land, which is having no other application. There cannot be done any other things.
I think there are a lot of question marks.
But environmentalist Chandra Bhushan says there's no such thing as wasted land in India. He recommends building smaller rooftop units on family homes and government buildings.
For India, solar energy should be decentralized and used on the existing land use, which means large solar-based plant, which is going to require a huge amount of land, is not something that India can afford.
The government is trying to respond to criticism with projects like this 10-megawatt solar plant being built over an existing canal. But right now, there aren't many plants like it. Still, Anil Patel's own experience suggests that no matter how small the power plant, it pays to go solar.
We'll be following that ambitious solar project in the years ahead and bring you updates as it develops. Well, still to come this week, the quirky Australian museum guiding its visitors around with a state-of-the-art interactive handset. And spinning lassos in space, why NASA's new soil moisture satellite comes fitted with a large mesh antenna. Now though, some of the other technology stories of the week. Apple's bosses will be patting themselves on the back with the announcement of its latest quarterly results. The company sold 74.5 million iPhones, record sales of the big screen iPhones in the holiday shopping season, and a 70% rise in sales in China put $18 billion of profit on Apple's books. According to one analyst, this is the biggest ever reported profit by a public company. Access to Facebook for its 1.35 billion users was blocked around the world for up to an hour on Tuesday. The company said it wasn't the result of an outside attack. Instead, it happened when it introduced a change to the configuration of its systems. And lawyers from the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks have held a press conference at which they threatened legal action against both Google and the US government. They demanded answers for the tech giant's wholesale handover of WikiLeaks staffers' Gmail contents to law enforcement.
Si se comprueba.
If we can prove that Google did not oppose the mass and indiscriminate handing over of these documents, we will explore the possibility of bringing legal action against Google and the US government for the way these proceedings went on.
Es absolutamente inaceptable.
It is clearly unacceptable that these proceedings should go on against WikiLeaks, Julian Assange and the others involved, to be submitted to general inquiry without cause. This is absolutely illegal and unacceptable, and we will be fighting this.
Well, virtual reality is gradually becoming more of a reality. Headsets like Microsoft's HoloLens, announced last week, and Facebook's Oculus Rift are stating their claim in a growing VR entertainment market. But away from the visual, taste and smell virtual reality technology is still in its infancy. The developers of one device, though, are hoping they can change that.
The aroma of an early morning fry-up, or the downwind hint of an iris in full bloom. From the subtle to the somewhat confronting, smell is a crucial part of the human experience. And in 2015, it could be coming to you more and more from your phone. This is Senti, a smelling app commercially developed by a Japanese firm. Professor Adrian David Chiok was one of the first to come up with the idea.
So Senti is a small device that you can attach into your mobile phone, into the audio jack. And what happens is that it allows you to send a smell message through your mobile phone.
When it comes to the way we interact with technology, Professor Chiok has all 5 senses in his sights. This is the electronic taste machine, which he hopes will eventually allow users to experience taste without consuming a single calorie.
So basically what happens, you put these 2 silver electrodes in your mouth, you put your tongue in between, and then it stimulates electrically your tongue and you get a virtual taste perception in your brain.
But when it comes to augmented reality, at least one tech giant is going back to the drawing board. The much publicised Google Glass has been withdrawn from the market, allowing users to record it. Well, many thought it overstepped the boundaries of privacy. If it makes a comeback, expect a different form. Facebook spent $2 billion buying Oculus VR, makers of the Rift headset. It's an immersive experience, but one that has so far failed to take off. Now, the name on everyone's lips is Microsoft HoloLens, which uses holograms to bring your desktop to your benchtop.
Now we can. This is the world with holograms.
But as with all new technology, the consumer will ultimately decide what should stay in the realm of fiction and what should come to life, as the line between our real and digital lives continues to blur.
Well, on Downstream, we have a soft spot for innovation and education and projects where high-tech learning centres are replacing books and pens with computer tablets and Wi-Fi. But is this tech-centric learning cost-effective and sustainable? We took a look at one project in Johannesburg in South Africa.
You're gonna take your tablet out of the box.
It's a big day for these students. From now on, tablets will replace their school books. Boitumelong Secondary School is among 7 public schools switching from paper to screens, thanks to a partnership between government and private sponsors.
You'll see different types of Wi-Fi you go into. Boitumelong students.
The teacher guides them through lessons, and if she's ever off sick, another teacher can be streamed into the classroom. Primrose Mokele is excited about the investment in her future.
Education is the key to success. So when using tablets, it's more easier than writing, and you get to do more work and stuff like that. So it's more important, and it's going to help a lot of people in future to get jobs.
That's important in a country where most school graduates are unemployed.
Everybody will know that you come from here, and this is the school of the future.
But the future is expensive. It'll cost $1.5 billion for tablets and internet connectivity for schools in Gauteng province. But while this school is being propelled into the digital age, most schools in South Africa don't have libraries. Some don't have flushing toilets, and many are under-resourced and understaffed. A group called Equal Education led protests to force South Africa's government to adopt minimum standards in schools. It's pleased at the digital plan, but it has lots of questions.
Is this an approach that is cost effective and sustainable and can be rolled out all across the country? And most importantly, is it going to deliver on its promise of providing a better education for all?
That may all depend on whether these students can improve the exam pass rate at their school and on how many of them go on to find jobs.
Well, straight to the heart now, and the extraordinary use of 3D printing technology to help surgeons repair a hole in a young British girl's heart. It's a breakthrough that has changed the life of the girl concerned and could also change the way operations like this are done in the future.
Looking at little Mina Khan playing happily now, it is difficult to visualize the sickly, underdeveloped child she was just a few months ago. She was born with a complex heart defect, an unusually large hole between the 2 ventricles of her heart. It left her breathless and unable to eat properly. Her physical development was affected. Even her hair wouldn't grow.
She used to vomit all the time, constantly. She used to be up 4 or 5 times through the night just vomiting.
Patching the hole was the obvious remedy, but the surgeons weren't sure that it could be repaired. Then they consulted the 3D printing technology at St Thomas's Hospital in London. First, an MRI scan like this one was used to map the precise structure of Mina's heart. Then the doctors used a specialist 3D printer to make an exact copy, hole and all. Equipped with that plastic model, it gave the surgeons the confidence to plan an operation that would work.
With this type of imaging that we can show on a screen, the surgeon's always relying on me as a cardiologist to show him what's what. And when I give him something like this, he turns around and he shows me what's what and how he's going to operate. And that's that kind of confidence that he has, knowing what to do, that will be, I think, a game changer. Yeah.
Using the 3D model, a custom-made Gore-Tex patch was created to plug the hole for Mina. And now, 3 months on from the surgery, she is well on the way to a full recovery, thanks in no small part to the doctors at Evelina Children's Hospital.
She was only ventilated for 48 hours, and as soon as the unventilated her, she was just up, sat in her bed, shouting at the nurses, "Nurse, nurse," laughing. I'm like, "Mina, shh, everybody's poorly in here."
And here is the actual model of Mina Khan's heart, showing in microscopic detail the ventricles and clearly the hole in the middle of her heart that needed to be mended. It is extraordinary to think that this simple piece of plastic enabled a complex surgery to go ahead, but also gives hope to thousands more people all around the world.
This week we saw NASA launch a remarkable new scientific satellite. The SMAP, or Soil Moisture Active Passive Satellite, will spend the next 3 years orbiting Earth. It'll measure and map soil moisture and the freezing and thawing of the surface of the planet in an effort to better understand land water, carbon and energy cycles. Water is life, and on planet Earth its scarcity or abundance affects almost all living things. But our planet's water system in large part remains a mystery to scientists. But now NASA has launched a satellite that will measure the moisture of the Earth's soils. It will do this with unprecedented accuracy and give scientists a detailed understanding of the role water plays.
Soil moisture is required in applications like agriculture, applications like watershed management, applications like health, drought, and landslide, flooding, and all kind of. So that requires a very high resolution going from 1 to 10 kilometers. So based on the application.
The satellite achieves this high resolution by deploying a 6-metre wide mesh antenna. This rotates every 4 seconds as it orbits 680 kilometres above the Earth's surface. Using a combination of radar and microwave sensing, it maps every part of the planet every 3 days.
The technology that we're using here, microwave remote sensing, allows us to observe the surface of the Earth regardless of any kind of weather condition or day or night conditions. And that's really unique because with optical sensors, we have problems whenever there are clouds.
Once operational, the satellite will produce a lot of data, which can be used to create global soil moisture maps. During its 3-year mission, these are expected to improve our ability to manage water resources for activities like agriculture. They'll also provide potentially life-saving information during emergencies like floods or droughts. And staying in space, this week an asteroid the size of 6 football pitches flew past Earth. The asteroid 2004 BL86 is 550 metres wide. It passed within 1.2 million kilometres of our planet. That's 3 times the distance between Earth and the Moon, so no danger there. But it did present a rare opportunity to get close to an asteroid. And scientists at 2 observatories in the US and Puerto Rico used microwave telescopes to do just that. The telescopes are able to see details the size of a car on the asteroid, and teams hope the data they collected will give us a better understanding of its surface, orbit and rotation. But what they did discover was asteroid 2004 BL86 has a small moon which orbits it. These 20 images making up this video were taken by the Deep Space Network antenna in California. And finally, something a little out of the ordinary, an unusual private museum in the Australian state of Tasmania. It's home to some weird and wonderful exhibits, but also offers visitors a digital record of their visit.
It has a fat car, goldfish cheating death, Egyptian antiquities, and a machine that is fed food, digests it, and then hours later defecates. But the story behind the Museum of Old and New Art is even more incredible than what's in it. Even this, a room of books without any words.
We call it White Library, but it's actually called Untitled, which is probably the right name for 6,000 blank books.
David Walsh is a professional gambler who studied gambling markets for more than 30 years. Big, disciplined bets have won him tens of millions of dollars more than he's ever lost.
The principal is exactly the same whatever you bet on. If the odds of the event are more likely than the payoff, in the long run you will win.
With his fortune, Walsh built and stocked an art museum. It's proved a hit. In just 4 years, it's become the biggest paid-for attraction in Tasmania. Many people take the dedicated and quirky boat to the museum, which has been built into the hillside, underground, like a lair.
It's very much a rich guy playing with a rich guy's toys. I built a museum to teach myself about museums, not to necessarily entertain anyone else.
But entertain he has.
Amazing, yeah. It just opens your mind.
Very overwhelming, a lot to take in, and yeah, kind of strange.
The art here is unusual, but so too is its presentation. None of the artwork has a plaque telling you what it's called, who it's by, or what it's meant to mean. Instead, for guidance, you get this.
It's called the O. Similar to a smartphone, it knows where you are in the museum and offers material to read about what's around. Visitors interact and are later emailed a personalised record of their visit. It's technology other museums want, one way Walsh hopes his can soon pay its way. It's already helping Tasmania's economy. In the city of Hobart, hotels and restaurants are booming.
15% of the visitors to Mona tell us that they came to Tasmania because of Mona. So in economic terms, we estimate that's $75 million into the economy that wouldn't have been realised had Mona not existed.
For Walsh, his museum is yet another gamble that's paid off.
That's all I have for you this week. I hope you'll share this video and have a look at the Al Jazeera English website, aljazeera.com. You'll find all our previous shows there, and you can also follow me on Twitter, Tarek Bazley. Thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.